G'day everyone, and welcome back to the Perkins Engineering YouTube channel. Now, it's definitely been a long time since our last series last year, and indeed our last video, which was dyno in the twin throttle engine. A lot of people have written to us asking for when's the next video coming and whatnot. So first of all, thanks everyone for the support. It means a lot to us that you want to see more videos, and we would love to do as many as we can. It's been a pretty busy time. Myself and my wife had a baby late last year. We had a couple of car races in the middle of all that. We've moved factories, and we've been pretty busy getting back to work, and sort of being a one or two man show, it's pretty hard to kind of maximize your workload and make a few videos on the way through, but we will always try and get as many videos up and running. So delighted to be back. First of all, thanks again for a lot of people that supported our merchandise over the Christmas period. We had a Boxing Day sale and a few things like that. There's still some hoodies left coming into winter. Perkins Engineering hoodie, I think they look pretty good. There's actually a couple of hats left, 93 hats in the Perkins agricultural hats. And we've got a few stubby holders left. These were very popular before Christmas. We made another run of them, and there's still a few in the box up there. So jump on perkinsengineering.com.au and check out our store. You might be able to grab a bargain in the next few weeks as well. We thought we'd get stuck straight back into it. And for those of you that followed our whole YouTube channel, they'll know we've done a heap of different videos. But one of the things we've been doing, one of the themes, if you like, has been that sort of comparison between the three generations of supercar. We've got the Project Blueprint era Commodore behind me, 2003 car. We're restoring the 93 and 94 VP Commodore, so that Group A 5-litre era. And then we've also got the HRT VF car of the future. So in this episode, I'm going to get stuck straight into the comparisons again. And we're going to have a look at the pedal assemblies, the pedal boxes and things like that, and see what changed in that area of the car over a period of 20 years. So let's get stuck straight into it. And we're going to start with the newest car, the HRT VF Commodore. Righto, we'll jump straight into this car of the future car, the newest car in our workshop. And these were actually a control item for the car of the future in 2013. They decided to mandate a control part specification, which is the pedal box as it's known, which is this entire unit you can see in front of you. And it's actually manufactured by 888. You'll be able to see the 888 logo and some part numbers and things on the pedal box. Another big logo there. So this is essentially the same across all of the car of the future cars, whether it be Holden, Ford, the Volvo, the Mercedes, even the Nissan. These are, in theory, are all very similar. Now, there is a lot of adjustment and differences that can be tailored to suit the drivers and the teams. Namely, I believe these pads, throttle, brake, clutch pad, had an element of freedom to them. So if you wanted to change the material or the size and the shape of this throttle pad, you could. The brake as well, notice this is knurled for a bit of grip, and it's quite shiny here where the drivers have worn it out, given this is coming up on 10 years old now, this car. It's 8 years now. Brake pedal's seen a bit of work. And then HRT, the Walkinshaw guys, anodized this particular brake pedal red, which is pretty cool. And then there's some flexibility in these master cylinders. So you'll see the brake master cylinders. There's one for the front and rear, and then obviously a clutch master cylinder. So you can change the size of those master cylinders, which then changes the feel and the travel distance of the brake pedal, given that the fluid displacement can change based on the size of the master cylinder. So a lot of teams and drivers have their own little theories with that. And, you know, if you swap from team to team, you quite often find that the master cylinders will be a different size, which then can change the length of the brake travel, but then obviously changes kind of the weight and the feel of that as well. And some teams actually change these around, whether it be the front on one side and the rear on the other, and that can have a bit of impact based on how your brake bias adjuster, which is across here, a bolt that runs across there, it can change the way that the brake bias is modulated by your master cylinder locations. Clutch one, pretty straightforward. Yeah, not much to it. I guess you can change that for feel, but quite often the feel comes from the clutch itself, given there's a few different brands of clutch. And then the throttle is very simple in one respect, but quite complex as well, given that it's all built out aluminium. But the throttle cam here So when you deliver the throttle, the cable then travels over this cam and delivers the power output to the engine. So that cam can be adjusted to give you different torque curves, I guess, if you like, the way your throttle travel works. It may not be linear in terms of, 10% of throttle may not be 10% power at the engine and things like that, or 10% throttle at the engine. So there's a bit of adjustability there between the teams. And also they kind of mucked around with different weighted springs here on the return side as well. It still uses a mechanical throttle cable, which links up to the motor. And you've got some adjustment with tie rod ends here and getting that all set up. And then the adjustment for the drivers in terms of distance in the pedals comes from the locations here marked out on the floor. So it's got a number of fastings there, and you can basically move that back and forth depending on your driver. And then you've also got some slight pedal adjustments. You'll see the clutch stop at the back there. You can space out the pads to the pedals and move them fore and aft. So there's quite a lot of adjustability. The serviceability on all accounts was pretty good on these things. And then you'll notice all the nice lines that go to the reservoirs, which I'll show you up under the bonnet. And then a nice false floor sits in over that section, which I've just removed for the purpose of this video. So I'll pop the bonnet, show you the reservoirs, and we'll move on to the next rocket after that. So under the bonnet of the HRT car, you see this nice little Tilton reservoir. So it's got the front brake, rear brake, and clutch fluid sits up there. Nice high spot, and then the lines run back down through here and in through the firewall and to the pedal assembly. So that's a really nice, neat location for it. And when you're bleeding the brakes, you obviously just take the caps off and you can top up the fluid here. Nice, easy access for the mechanics. So that's the pedal box and fluid system on the HRT car. Let's go check out the 2003 VY in the blueprint era. Righto, over on the 2003 Rocket, this is actually a pedal box designed and manufactured in-house by Perkins Engineering. You'll notice when we skip over to the VPs, the Perkins cars never traditionally had a pedal box like this with the master cylinders behind the pedals or in the pedal bay area, which we'll get into later on. But this was a very nice design, fabricated box in-house, and then the pedals we made ourselves as well. And it's a nice little unit that sits in the car. You'll notice straight away, you can see the brake bias adjuster rod across here. So it changes the leverage point for the front and rear master cylinders, thus changing the bias front to rear. This block here also can change the angle of the and the throw of the pedal. So you can flip that block upside down to change the leverage point, which can change the travel and the feel of the pedals. So that, yeah, the brake and clutch pedals themselves are very similar design to what you'll see on the VPs. Throttle's quite a lot different. Same sort of theory as the HRT car. You'll see here it's got a cam that the cable follows on the throttle, and that again delivers the power to the motor. And there's different adjustables on the cam side of things. Still uses a manual cable, a nice little throttle stop there that hits a nice solid stop, and a bit of adjustability on that pedal pad. You can move that back and forth. It's currently as close to the driver as it can get, and then when you move it in, you'll notice we've slotted the top of this, and that can go further back. There's the same adjustability on the floor. There's a couple of bolts holding it in the ground. The whole setup can move forth and aft. And then you'll notice the master cylinders at the back, the two brake ones, and then the clutch one just there with a nice clutch stop. And the master cylinders are actually mounted on a really neat bearing system, which you can see here. So there's no stiction, and those master cylinders work really, really well. This was a really nice little pedal box in these cars. And you can see the blue line where the fluid comes down, and that's actually the bottom of our reservoir setup. It's a fabricated aluminium reservoir setup with the lids above the bonnet up here, and that's obviously gravity fed, and really a nice little neat little design, feeding the fluid into the master cylinders. So you can see we come up in the top of the plenum, and you can just see the lid in here which is accessible when you pop the bonnet to top up the fluid, and you can just put a little funnel in here and top up the brake fluid. So that's the 2003 Rocket with Perkins Engineering designed pedal box. Okay, here we are, the 93 Bathurst winning VP Commodore in the pedal well. You'll notice straight away she's a very basic setup in here. It still uses the road car factory GM throttle pedal. So that's all the factory mounting to the firewall. Throttle cable still mechanical pickup at the top there, goes through the firewall, and it's the road car pad at the back. And Dad was always a pretty big fan of some insulation on the pedals, a little bit bigger to help for the heel and toe. So it's a timber pad, good insulation, and a bit more area to sit your foot on the throttle. And why it gets hot down there, because you spend a lot of time on the throttle. The exhaust pipes are just behind the footrest over here, so it gets quite warm. So a bit of timber there helps with a bit of insulation, keeping the driver's foot temperature under control. We've got a mechanical stop mounted to the firewall, which is where the throttle stop goes. And then you'll notice the brake and clutch pedal fabricated in-house, very similar design to the 2003 car. We use a little bit of sandpaper on the pedals on both the 2003 car and this one, straight off the Lenishing wheel. And the brake uses a unique pull rod design, which I'll show you, and the clutch uses a push rod here. And you see the footrest over there. So very basic setup, and you're probably wondering, where are the master cylinders? So let's have a look. They're actually under the car in this Rocket. And this was right through to 2002, the Perkins Engineering cars used this setup. So basically, when you push the brake, it pulls this rod, which pulls this way, that way, against the two master cylinders, the front and rear master cylinder, which are there. Brake bias adjustment comes through here. There's a bolt across there, and that runs up into the cabin. And that's your brake assembly. So it's a really unique design underneath the car, out of the way, and very low center of gravity, and good serviceability as well in terms of getting to all these master cylinders and push rods and bits and pieces. And that's your brake light switch here. When you push the brake pedal forward, the switch will come on. Clutch master cylinder, very basic. So that uses just a normal sort of push rod. When you push the clutch, it pushes the master cylinder in. And you've got a bit of adjustment with the different size master cylinders to change your brake feel if required. And that's the Perkins Engineering setup. Pretty unique. Worked really well for a number of years. And you might be wondering, hey, where's the reservoirs? Well, I'll show you. So we've jumped in the boot now, and this is where the reservoirs for the brakes and clutch have been located in the Perkins Engineering cars for a long time. Right up till 2002 when they went to the VY and changed the pedal box setup we showed you before. So the front brake reservoir's bigger than the rear and the clutch, and then it goes soft lines in through the cabin, down along the inside of the sill and down to where those pedals were. And a unique difference between this one and the 1994 Rocket is the 1994 car had hard lines from the reservoir. So I'll quickly go and show you those now. And here's a 94 Rocket. So they're on cue. Those hard lines, aluminium hard lines from the reservoirs, same sort of trajectory through a nice little hole in the firewall, down to the sills and to the reservoir. So that's the brake and clutch pedal setups across 3 generations of supercars. Well, that's it for another episode of Perkins Engineering YouTube. Like I said, great to be back getting some content to you guys. Good to look at those 3 different generations of cars. Hopefully do a few more of those throughout the course of the next few videos. The next one we want to do is actually a bit of an update on our restorations. We've been working pretty hard on the VPs. So there's engines going in cars, tail shafts getting built. Lots happening in that space. Hopefully getting some wiring done pretty soon. So we'll give you an update on how they're traveling and hopefully complete them, pretty soon actually. Thanks for the support. Thanks for all the comments, messages. We get them all. If we haven't replied, we've definitely read them. It's just difficult to get back to everyone. Remember these stubby holders? Perkins Engineering stubby holders. These will keep your beers and your soft drinks nice and cool. A few hoodies left in some different sizes. Keep looking, hats, t-shirts. Things will often get dropped in price, or we'll try and do a bit of a deal. And once we get rid of a bit of this stock, we'll try and bring in a new range of things. So thanks for the support. Much appreciated, guys and girls. Look forward to bringing you another video soon.